When we discuss the monthly expense of home internet, our primary gripe tends to be its irritatingly high cost. But what's equally strange is the considerable disparity in prices from one place to another, even within the same country. It's puzzling that in Minneapolis, you're shelling out about $100 monthly for internet service comparable to what you can snag for just $60 a month in Fort Worth, Texas. The commonly cited culprit behind these hefty internet bills is the lack of competition among internet service providers, ISPs, and that's not far from the truth. It's important to delve into why this is so. And no, it's not just because they're unpleasant. While that may be true, there's more to the story. The fundamental issue with the free market approach to broadband internet service is the significant difficulty for new competitors to enter the market, which can be financially disastrous even to attempt. Much like water pipes, electrical wires, and rail lines, internet cables are expensive to install and essentially useless until you establish an extensive network of them. This leads to a hefty initial investment that private firms usually only consider if they're certain they'll make profits. It often leads to a situation economists call a natural monopoly, especially in smaller markets where the costs and barriers to entry are prohibitively high, dissuading competitors. In larger markets, it tends to create a duopoly or oligopoly, with a few major players coexisting. Despite the vastness of the United States, the need for infrastructure in every community effectively makes each urban area its own separate market. So, most of us end up with just one or two options for internet service providers, ISPs. It's similar to having only one water utility provider. There's typically just one set of pipes leading to each house. The number of ISPs in a region is influenced by factors like geography, how many people live there, and local rules. The more difficult it is to set up and swap out cables and infrastructure, the greater number of customers you require to cover the initial installation costs. This poses a significant challenge for countries with vast, thinly populated rural regions, such as Canada, the United States, and Australia. However, regions abundant in rivers, deserts, and mountains, such as Canada, the United States, and Australia, face challenges with high infrastructure costs. This obstacle highlights the potential significance of satellite internet for rural markets, provided it becomes more affordable in the near future. Nonetheless, the current expense of launching satellites remains a barrier. In places like Hong Kong and Singapore, where broadband is lightning fast and affordable, it's usually because they're densely packed urban areas with few rural folks. It sounds great, but even in natural monopolies like this, there can still be shady dealings going on. There's still hope for a fix. Spending over $30 on your phone bill in today's economy? Teo Mobile offers budget-friendly prices without compromising reliability. Their unlimited plan includes perks like free international calls to over 60 countries, free hotspot and tethering, and a generous 35 gigabytes of data, all for just $25 a month. And the best part? No pesky contracts to tie you down. The issue with natural monopolies lies in how they stifle rather than foster competition. When the cost and difficulty of genuine competition are high, it becomes easier to win through lobbying and intimidating smaller rivals, thus distorting the essence of a free market. For a small internet service provider, ISP, to grow, it must obtain various government permits, which can be adjusted to be overly difficult to acquire. Additionally, the company needs to build enough infrastructure to attract customers, while possibly needing to rent access to competitors' infrastructure and bandwidth, which may require legal enforcement in many countries. In theory, these smaller firms could eventually reach a critical moment where they could compete on their own, but well before reaching that stage, they'll reach another critical juncture where it makes more sense to sell to the largest competitor. In a scenario resembling a natural monopoly, the main players are motivated to progressively acquire all these smaller firms and eventually merge into a single giant entity, enabling them to increase profit margins and reduce infrastructure investments. In this scenario, taking legal action against monopolistic behavior and passing laws to prevent more mergers seem like the only viable solutions to revive competition. Regulation can be messy and tends to leave people feeling either disinterested or upset. Canada serves as a prime example, with its ineffective antitrust watchdogs and hefty regulatory hurdles for new entrants. Across much of the nation, sky-high internet prices prevail due to the immense costs of building infrastructure. However, in Ontario and Quebec, the two most densely populated provinces, prices are even worse than in British Columbia and Alberta, primarily because of the tighter control exercised by internet service providers. So, are we suggesting more government involvement? Some nations have telecom industries completely owned and operated by the government or semi-independent public entities. Others heavily subsidize infrastructure construction to overcome the initial investment hurdle. While this might not lower overall costs, it does promote quicker development by spreading risk across the entire taxpayer base, rather than concentrating it within a single company with fewer customers. An intriguing American example is Chattanooga, Tennessee, which boasts some of the nation's most affordable and rapid internet connections. It gained fame as the pioneer in adopting gigabit-speed internet in 2010. Even now, businesses can access blazing 25 gigabit internet, albeit at a premium. The Chattanooga Electric Power Board serves as the city-owned internet service provider, functioning much like any other local utility company. And isn't Chattanooga just a delight to say? Some governments opt for a middle ground, establishing public corporations without monopolies to compete with private companies, like SaskTel in Saskatchewan, Canada. Despite the province's vastness and sparse population, many residents enjoy cheaper, faster internet compared to urban areas like Vancouver. If you dislike both big government and big corporations, you can turn to telecom cooperatives, where customers collectively own the ISP. These co-ops, often small and found in rural areas worldwide, fill the gap left by traditional telecom companies and ISPs. Offering affordable, higher quality telephone and internet services in smaller areas isn't just about saving money, it can mean the difference between having internet access or not at all. Addressing the issue of varying prices across regions won't improve on its own. It requires deliberate action, collaboration, and investment to alter the current incentives. However, change is possible.